Hello and welcome to Indian Express Opinion. Our top story today is a game, or we don't know if it's a game at all, but it's called the Blue Whale Challenge. Is it a computer game? Is it a life and death challenge? What is it? To answer these questions and more, I have with me Swapnil, who runs the Tech Hook website associated with the Indian Express. Swapnil, what is the Blue Whale?
So the Blue Whale Challenge essentially started in Russia as far back as 2013. The goal of this game essentially is to assign 50 tasks to you, one task a day, which starts with self-mutilation, is psychologically damaging, and the end of the game results in the demise of the player.
So now lots of kids in India have been playing this so-called game, but it is a life and death.
It is absolutely life and death.
And there are several children who have allegedly committed suicide.
Yes. So the reason behind kids finding this very alluring, essentially, is that there's a few factors at work here. One is, of course, what goes on at home. You know, parents these days lead very busy lives. There's not as much oversight with what the children are doing. Sometimes kids feel that they can't talk to their own parents. So, they tend to seek validation outside. They tend to seek support outside. And that's what the moderators of this game essentially are looking to trap kids into.
So sorry to interrupt you, but how many kids have allegedly committed suicide, or how many people in India?
In India, the number is at about 4, but globally the number is sitting around 150.
And this is since 2013?
Since 2013.
So you said this started in Russia.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how it started, who are the people behind it?
Right. So the creator of the game goes by the name Peter Budkin. He's 21 years old right now. The Russian authorities caught him in May, at which point he said that the reason he created this game in 2013...
When he was 17 years old?
When he was 17 years old, and he said he'd been working on this for 5 years.
I see. So he was 12 when he was working on it.
Exactly. And his goal was...
And this is in Moscow?
This is in Russia.
Okay, we don't know where.
I am not sure about where exactly,
okay.
But his goal was to cleanse society. He feels that kids who are psychologically gullible were biological waste. His words, biological waste.
I see.
And
this is a 21-year-old talking.
Exactly.
So almost like a neo-Nazi type of
Very
person.
neo-Nazi, very scary. And in fact, when the game originally started back in 2013, it was in a group called F57. A lot of the players at the time...
What is this group?
It was just a suicide group, actually. It was a dark part of the internet. It was a social media website that was started by him.
So young people subscribing to this group?
Yes, young people subscribe, and then they subscribe to the social media network, and then depending on what they were posting and analyzing their trends, they were included into this group. It was an invite only, and once they had been invited in, a moderator, which at the time was Peter Budkin himself, would start assigning these tasks.
And so these are kids within Russia, or
they were all within Russia at the beginning, yes.
And and then from there it spread all
yes.
over the world.
Yeah.
So now are you saying that there are young people or children or sort of young adults who also subscribe to this group? So how does it work now?
So it's basically now spawned beyond that one website, because of course the Russian authorities took the website down. But the internet is such a vast space. Once information goes up, it's copy-pasted everywhere. So, right now, the Indian government had reached out to the tech companies saying, hey, please take off all mention of these websites, remove the links to such content. And while websites do comply, unfortunately, somebody who's looking for information will find it.
So although the Indian government has told Google, and
Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp,
Twitter,
Microsoft, Twitter, everybody's been notified, yes.
And told them to take this game down.
Yes. So it's not exactly like an install file. Of course, for Google, it'll be an Android file. Yes, so Google will monitor that. But it's actually links to a forum or links to a place where a player can connect with a moderator.
I see.
And when the two connect, the game relies on them forming a bond of tutor and student. And through this connection, the moderator will exploit the person's vulnerable state of mind and get them to start doing tasks which range from self-mutilation to watching really disturbing videos and culminating in death.
So anybody who wants can, say for example me or you or anybody else can actually go to this website. What is it? Is it a link? Is it a website? What is this?
It'll be a website, yes, to start with. It'll be.
Do you know what it is?
I don't. I haven't really gone looking for it yet because my devices are accessible to everybody at my home, and I have a 14-year-old sister, so I make sure that I'm not finding any information that she can also misuse. But
So essentially, anybody who knows or is keen enough to find out.
yeah, if you're keen enough to find out, literally, Google's not the only search engine, right? It's the most popular, yes, but it's not the only one, and there are so many of them which the Indian government has no control over. So if you put an hour to it, literally you can actually get everything that you need, and that's the scary part.
So these kids are au fait enough with, or they have the skills, they have the computer skills to be able to go online to search for this game.
Absolutely. I mean,
It's like a relentless sort of pursuit.
It is. And, when I was 14, I was playing with cards.
Yeah.
Kids today, when they're 14, they know how
Is that where you gambling?
No.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
Uno, mostly. But, kids today, 14-year-olds, are so good with operating computers, tablets, smartphones. They know how to link the three together. They know how to transfer information. I mean, the research skills are actually marvelous. And I wish I had that skill. I would have probably gotten through school a lot easier.
Now, this 19-year-old young adult in Madurai who allegedly committed suicide just a day or so, just recently, a few days ago. Now, what would you make of that? A 19-year-old young man is not a child. He's not an adult.
Yeah.
Getting out of his teens, approaching adulthood. What would somebody like that, what would he be looking for?
So what also happens is, as we grow up, right, we have problems that we may want to talk about. In our country, unfortunately, mental health is such a stigma that people are not able to reach out from the backlash that they might face from society. The very fact that if you tell that I'm seeing a psychologist or a therapist or a psychiatrist to seek help is looked down upon.
And it's a stigma, like you said.
It is a stigma. And if you don't have somebody to talk to, eventually you are going to get caught in the allure of the game. And
explain this allure to me. You've used this word before as well. What does it mean?
So here's what happens. Here's what so many reports, and this is coming from players who've survived, who've quit in the middle, who've gone to rehab. They say that what they get is understanding and a bond and a connection which they were not able to experience
from this person on the other side, on the
other
website.
Side. So imagine how alienated they must feel in their real lives from maybe their own families or their friends, that they're not able to talk about their emotional distress with them. And pair that up with the fact that they cannot go seek out a therapist's help, this is exactly where they talk.
So they go onto this website and they connect with this so-called
in certain situations, it would not even be them reaching out. It could be the moderators reaching out, because that's what happened originally. The moderators of this group, of the F57 group, reached out to users of the social media website that the group was hosted on, saying, hey, we have this group, do you want to join?
But how can you put a message out like this on the World Wide Web?
You wouldn't put it out on the web. You would put it out in restricted forums. You'd put it out as, it wouldn't be, hey, join the Blue Whale Challenge, of course, but it would be, if you want somebody to talk to, why don't you come in? And that's where the luring happens, right?
I see.
You lure them in, you form a bond, and then you say this is a game, and you associate playing this game with something that's larger than themselves.
Which is what? For example?
A social cause. Could be anything. When, like, even as journalists, we have this profession because we feel what we do is bigger than us.
That's right.
Right? And that
so you need to connect to something that's larger than you, a goal.
Exactly.
And something that makes you feel as if you've achieved something.
You've achieved something. And that's kind of where this game is going, because at the end of the day, it puts it tends to make you think that all the control is in your hands, with the way you're living, with how you're hurting yourself, and how eventually you're killing
now
yourself.
the picture in this so-called game or challenge is of a whale.
A blue whale, actually.
A blue whale.
Yeah.
Do you know why this young man, Peter, why did he call it the blue whale?
It just kind of spawned through popularity, I believe, because originally it was F57.
So then what they do is that you're drawing the blue whale on your forearm.
With a blade.
With a blade.
Yes.
So you're already mutilating, you're beginning to mutilate yourself.
So that's actually one of the best things to look out for, I guess. And in some countries in South America, kids and even the police are going to schools, they're inspecting kids' arms, and that's something you have to do. Like, if you feel that there is somebody you know who might be a part of this game, just look for physical signs.
So today in India, what do you think we should do? Whether it's schools, policing, parents, the parental community, local communities in your own, around where you live.
I think it starts first with home. I think parents need to spend a lot more time just talking to their children, connecting at an emotional level, and not just talking about, hey, how was school? but more like how you're feeling, how it affects you, and providing emotional support. That's one. From schools, teachers and counselors and even staff, I believe, need to be a lot more vigilant where kids being isolated is concerned. Because a child who is being isolated by his peers is very likely to turn to the internet for social approval.
Right.
And I mean, if you look at any social media trend over the last 10 years, we see that we've started seeking approval externally rather than internally. You know, so that's something that schools can also do.
And perhaps in your website, Swapnil, perhaps you could write about this or get therapists to write about it, and that's one way to connect with people.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for your time, and I think this story around the Blue Whale Challenge, where young people have been killed or are in the process of mutilating themselves, might be a good idea for all of us to sit down, take a deep breath, connect with our children, connect with people around us, and help avert this very deadly tragedy. Thank you so much for watching.